Yeah.
You are a son of a bitch.
Un saluto a tutti.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the AJC Victory Sunday. Victory Sunday today. Getting Turin black and white. It's been black and white for a very, very long time, and it remains that way, which is, well, all I could say is thank God, because you don't want to drop to this Torino side. No disrespect, but yeah, they stink. Right, Ant?
They stink. They stink.
Yeah. So I got Ant and Lou with me. Fellas, how are you doing? Are you ready to tackle what was the latest edition of the Derby della Mola?
Yeah, I'm ready. I was promised that Omer would be here, and instead we got Tony. So disappointing to start, but we moved.
Yeah. Definitely thoughts with Omer.
You're paying for dinner, Lou. You're paying for dinner next time I see you. Yeah, thoughts with Omer. Hey, you want to know something? I'm going to be selfish. Great to be back. I appreciate the time off. Had a bunch of stuff going on. The AJC people who don't realize how great behind the scenes the AJC team is. Great support. Glad to be back. Been waiting for this. Glad I'm back for a win. I didn't want to deal with that Atalanta game. Lou told me about it. Said it was horrible.
Yeah.
Apparently this one wasn't much better. But hey,
the first
3
first
points.
half of this one. Second half was a
The
little more
first half-
lively for sure. We'll take a quick second, say what's up to everybody. We got Alex P in here. Ciao tutti, Siraj, ciao. Saluti from everyone at JFC Melbourne, Gigi Buffon Club. What is going on? Love the crew out there. Doing great stuff. Tony Trim. Ciao Juventini, good result yesterday. Now we wait for Milan, who will be missing Theo and Magnan. Yeah. But we got to focus on ourselves, and we'll talk about that, especially coming out of this game and whatnot. But yeah, obviously, it's nice to have those guys missing for them. RB Comps in here, what's up? And saying what's up to Anthony coming back, the chip guy. That's what it took. Just a bag of chips. We got him back. We're happy to have Ant back. Now we're going to rock and roll and get into the Derby, everybody. Okay, so a lot of positives leading up to it that we covered in the pre-match between Omer and myself, and that's just the management and that awesome feeling that, hey, they said some things were going to go down, and then they backed it up with actions, which was awesome. So we got the follow-through. Starting to correct things with the Ultras, giving them the flags, the banners, the drums, the megaphones. Love it. Okay, should have happened a long time ago.
Beautiful.
Did it. Talked about backing this club up and whatever. Somebody's been screaming from the rooftops for a bond coming in. Hey, we got the bond. Yeah, I wonder who, you bastards.
I think that was Luca who's been doing that.
Pretty sure it was Lucci.
Yeah, definitely Lucci.
Luca's too busy fighting fights for players who left 3 years ago. Come on.
Oh
You know,
my
it wasn't
God.
Luca.
Give it up. Give it up, Luca. Jesus.
Yep. Take the posters off your wall, Luca. Okay.
Don't
Roll
pull
them
off
up.
the paint.
Get rid of them. Okay.
Mhm.
Move on.
There's
All right.
new players to fall in love with, right? You know?
Yeah,
Weirdo.
there's new mediocre talent to cling all of your being to, not the Aaron Ramseys of the world. So
Oh, the Ramsey.
now,
Oh.
so we had a lot of positives with that. We saw the atmosphere outside the stadium with the ultras and everything. Everybody's getting jacked up. We're all jacked up. It's like, okay, let's hit the ground running in this derby, whatnot. Well, the first half didn't really back up all that positive feeling that was going to go in there. We'll get to that. But the lineups, man, a little bit interesting. So Allegri taking the tip from John McKennie, Weston's S. So we saw Weah and McKennie on the right side, which was surprising. That was a surprise to me. I thought 1,000% we were going to get Fagioli in the middle there with the trio, but we actually saw McKennie in the middle, Weah on the right side. Everything as it was at the back, and then...
Have we ever had two Americans start for Juventus?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
We saw history yesterday, boys. Come on, history.
Yeah.
Let's go. Here we go.
As an American, I'm not gonna lie, like that gave me a little bit of joy.
I'm just saying. I don't think we've ever seen it.
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
it was
interesting.
cool. I mean, like, you know, like it was concerning. It was an interesting lineup. Like, it was cool.
Yeah, it was. That's kind of where it's at. We'll talk performance wise for those guys, but yeah, like bit of a surprise there, a bit of a shock there from what we got for the lineup. Ultimately, though, even talked about it. whoever the hell's out there, you got to get the job done. This one had to be a win going into international break, playing Milan on the backside, and then coming off the draw against Atalanta. You want to keep pace there. Got a little bit of a nice result there with Bologna drawing Inter, coming back from 2-0 down. Love seeing the Snakes fucking fuck shit up there. Loved it. So Bologna's going to be kind of that team that pisses the bigger clubs off this season. Malta's doing some good stuff there. So like that. Now we get to our game. First half. Well, it started off like we were going to roll, especially with fifth minute in there. Weah cuts in and feeds Keane there, who absolutely lashes that one beyond Vanja Milinkovic-Savic, but called back for offside. He was mid-gritty, too, before finding out that he's offside there, and I was jacked up for that one. That's okay. Call it back. But then, to be honest, not really a bunch there. 17th minute, we got a created opportunity there from Danilo, who had stepped up on a ball, put it forward, and then Kostic comes in, cuts it off, puts a low, hard ball going across the goal just beyond Keane.
That was a shot.
Outside of that, not much in the first half. A couple opportunities that were somewhat dangerous from Torino, but they couldn't really do anything in the final execution. There was one, Bellanova got behind our defense. He got a through ball, but all he could do from that terrible angle was put it right at Tech, who just saw it out for a corner. And then 44th minute, Bellanova cutting in from the right and lashing at one with his left foot that was always going wide of Tech's goal. We kind of finished the first half where I felt we kind of looked okay in the first maybe 15 minutes. And then outside of that, just super flat and not really able to get any rhythm.
There was one thing the only thing of note in the first half was that a red card on Bellanova on that foul on Rabiot.
And I'm glad you brought that up. We got
look at me.
So
first day back, killing it.
I said easy yellow, like no red. But there was people on the watch along on the live chat calling for red. For me, it was like, okay, that's yellow.
For me, it's shoulder to shoulder. Play on. Like I didn't even
like there's nothing there.
Bellanova when that happened.
Yeah. So as far as that goes, like, I mean, it's Rabiot was the one that battled in for the 50-50. Bellanova coming in from the side, and Laboratory Nick says, I mean, yeah, he goes, Bellanova tries to step in front of him, but instead ends up running right into Rabiot and foul him. Here we are trying to determine whether this denied a clear goal-scoring opportunity, or did this simply stop a promising attack. Things to look for: distance to the goal, ball control, direction of play, chance of other defenders intervening. All 4 points must be clearly checked off. Here we only clearly have ball control and direction of play. Still quite a bit of distance to goal. And there's other opportunities for defenders to come in and challenge Rabiot. So it's correct decision by a mile. So
country mile.
All those shouts for red, I was like, no, come on. Because if it was the other, I always try to put myself in the other team shit, and I'd be like, okay, well, if that happened to us, I'd be livid. All right. So I know we get sometimes fired up because we want the advantages and we want Juve to just steamroll, but we got to be real here. So that one, nothing doing.
Never. Also, I mean, I guess we're all kind of like old school here. That's never a red card. Just, you know.
That was a professional foul. Yeah. That was a professional foul at its best. Shut things down. He's about to be on a fast break. You come in, you shut it down. Your team gets to regroup. Like
that's just professionalism. Like
yeah. That's it. I would be.
You got a bit of agenda over there
for doing that.
There's a bit of an agenda over there.
Listen, if we're talking about my agenda, I mean that was not professionalism. That was heroism. Like we
don't have time for your agenda. We really don't have time for it. Second half.
Now, first half. For me, that was just too flat for a derby. But not only that, I just see the same thing I've been complaining about for quite some time. And I say all aspects are going to suffer because of what we're doing in the midfield. Our midfield that's where games are won and lost. Our midfield, there's no interplay amongst them. The Metsalas bomb forward aimlessly. We can't hit them, and it actually gives teams opportunities to come back at us because we can't find them. So I've been saying for I don't even know how long now, keep your midfielders back, build up with everybody, and that way, at least if you lose it, these guys are in position. We just launch them forward. We're trying to play flick-ons or get somebody to control the ball, and it's scattered. And we have to get Danilo, Bremer, and Gatti the fuck off the ball.
Yeah.
Like we have to come up with a solution that doesn't see these guys trying to dictate play. And that's as far as I can go. But in the first half, I was disappointed with Locatelli. I was disappointed with Moretti as an individual. Play. I really only saw a lot out of Keane and Weah, to be honest. But your guys' thoughts on the first half?
In the chat, I think we talked about this, Tony, yesterday at the start of the game. Like, Gatti and Bremer gave the ball away 6 times in the first 4 minutes. Like
3 minutes.
4 minutes is generous. Like it was a lot of giveaways. I do agree about Weah. I thought that he was probably our strongest player in the first half. He looked like as the first half went on, he kind of grew into it a little bit. But you're spot on about the midfield. They're just the players in there. They don't have the ability. They don't have the creative ability to break open a game. And when they bomb forward like that, they leave us really exposed. You get things where it's like where Locatelli tries to be the director and just plays the ball over the top, and it's never on target to anyone. There's no target man. And I think to be honest, and we'll talk about the second half, but once you get the way for Juventus to create and break down teams, it's got to come from the flanks. When we play through the flanks, through Kostic, through Cambiaso, through Weah and McKennie, we're a really hard team to beat. But in games where we're not playing through the flanks, kind of like the Atalanta game, like we're useless. And I think that, that was kind of the big thing in the first half was we weren't getting the ball out wide. We weren't getting the ball to Kostic or Weah's feet enough. We didn't really have a target man with Keane up there. And it became that kind of old story where the Mezzalas, the Rabiot, Moretti, McKennie role, they're just bombing forward into the box and we're just lofting balls to them. And it was ugly.
Yeah. And
that game plan, you can see that was a game plan. That was a strike against Max. The game plan was we're going to play it from the back and just bomb it up. There's no way the players are like, I'm not going to pass a Locatelli in the middle. Like that. Yeah. That was a game. It didn't work. But credit to Max, he made the adjustments at halftime.
Yeah, this ongoing thing, and to Lou's point about playing through the flank stuff, yeah, that's when we're kind of at our best and whatnot. The only issue is that with Atalanta, they set up in the same manner as us, so the flanks get taken away, and that's when our middle really has to show up. I bet you, and I'd love to see a count on this, but I can probably bet you that our midfield doesn't connect or interplay amongst each other maybe 20 passes an entire game. I bet you that they don't link up with one another as a unit for 20 passes.
I think that it's really weird because I think that there's players in there that could have the capabilities that we need. Like we talked about Fagioli, and obviously he didn't start this match, and some people were disappointed about it. We talked a little bit about this pre-match in the HEC chat. As much as we love the kid, his form has not been great this year. But Max in the post-match after Atalanta talked about Fagioli, being 20 yards out, needs to shoot more. He needs to look to make passes around the box. Like, he has those capabilities. He just doesn't execute it, right? It's not someone like Rabiot. Like, if you were asking Rabiot to, play a ball over the top to break down the defense, you're asking him to do something that's out of his skill set, right? But like players like Fagioli, Moretti, like they do have that skill set. They had it at the youth level. They just need to execute at the top level. Like they'd have a little bit of confidence. They need to take a little bit of risks. And I think oftentimes that's what's so disappointing is that, that one creative player that we were so desperately begging for, like it could be there in one of those young kids. They don't show it. Right.
Okay. Moretti's getting cooked here in the comments. So
we are going to get to Moretti, but yeah. Go ahead.
Well, he came off at halftime, so I don't know if you want to talk about him now or post-game. We
could talk about it now, but we're going to dive in a little more post-game. But yeah, your thoughts on this. Go ahead.
Well, he was playing out of his position, right? So I'm not going to absolutely dump on it. First, he's a kid. Second, I'm not going to dump on him because he's not playing in the position that he's been playing in the previous games. So for me, it wasn't a good game, but I'd give him a pass this game.
Also, I think we'll talk about in the second half, of course, but Milik as the target man might have helped him a little bit more. Keane didn't really offer much in the hold-up at all.
Mhm.
His runs, like he'd make runs, people couldn't find them. Like there was just a lot of disconnect with Keane yesterday. And I think that like maybe in hindsight, I get why they brought Milik off the bench because he's so effective as a sub. But in hindsight, maybe that was the mistake there, was not starting Milik from minute one. Because he just brings a little bit more all around to their game. They look a little bit better with him in there.
Outside of Keane's like Jean-Claude Van Damme freaking
Yeah.
settle at the top of the area though. Oh my god, I'm like Locatelli says deal with this and he just freaking's got his boot up and of all the fucking balls that guy traps beautifully, that's the one he traps like perfectly. Not the ones that are coming down like, chest
From an
area
outside
or like
position, by the way.
halfway up the shin. He takes the one that's like a foot above his head and it's just like, yeah, I'm bringing this down no problem.
Not,
That was
Okay, man.
unbelievable.
Nothing
Okay.
sums up Moise Keane's second stint than making a touch like that.
That
in
was
game.
that was
From an
wild.
offside
It
position,
just
though.
Yeah.
it just stopped. I was like, no way does he just trap that thing like that. Unreal. Anyways, yeah,
I would have
Miretti.
pulled 15 muscles doing that.
I wouldn't even have a thought of
Just did one of
toss a
these.
leg up there. It's
Not
like
getting
no,
that.
no. What are we doing here?
I'm not getting that.
But Miretti, yeah, he gets blasted and like I mean, there's nothing you could say outside that. Like he was poor. It was brutal.
Yeah.
But I said this like, and I keep saying this. In that first half, I could have went down a list of players that I thought were poor and that were practically invisible, that weren't doing anything, that whatever. The fact that it shines with him is yet again, number one, the position he's playing, the number of times he's involved and everything like that. But we got to stop looking to these young guys to be our saviors, and I need more out of those guys. So in the first half, I'm more on Locatelli because I thought he was brutal. I thought I'm more on Rabiot. I wanted more involvement out of McKennie. I thought Weah could have still done a little bit more.
Easily.
Like everybody, I could have went down that list, and I was like, I was left wanting more from everybody, but more so, I continue to be frustrated with something that is outside just the players and their individual performances, and that's what we were talking to before about how we use our midfield. I don't understand how you can watch this for so long and not understand that that has to change. And your midfield, you have to form a unit because right now our midfield is plug and play individuals, and they're not a unit. They don't play together as one. And as far as I'm concerned, I've always believed this. I always will. And yeah, I'm a midfielder, but games are won and lost in the middle of the park. And what you do there affects you offensively and affects you defensively. And the games that we struggle are shit essentially are the games when our midfield is pretty much non-existent and not being able to do anything. And this for me is the biggest problem around Juventus, because if you're facing a team like Torino, no disrespect to them, but kind of a little
But you're
disrespect to
about
them,
to. You're about to. Yeah.
your midfield needs to take control of a game against Torino.
Yeah.
Flat out.
I also think, your points about the midfield too. If you think about some of our best performances when we were playing with the high press, like against Lazio, against Udinese, like even in the Empoli game, the midfield kind of becomes a little bit effective because they take Moretti, they have him press a little bit higher, right? So he plays in between the lines where he likes to play, right? And he had good performances in each of those games. And then Locatelli and Rabiot, they're kind of almost like a little bit deeper. So their role is not necessarily to make those bombing runs or play the ball over the top. Their role is to just clean up for your wingbacks. What is concerning to me is like when we go from that to like what we did last night, and it's like, why in the first half? Where's the change? Is it because Chiesa and Vlahovic set up that press and we can't do what the other guys? What is the change there? Is it Max reverting to his old self? That's a concern for me going forward. I want to see that in the next couple matches as we get healthier. If they go back to that press, if it helps, if it changes things a little bit, with Vlahovic and Chiesa fully fit, like, will we see that again?
Could it be something as simple as playing? Now, I saw the lineups listed as a 3-5-1-1. Having that 1-1 formation at the top, could that just be something that just threw the players off? Like it's not. They don't have two strikers up top which is what we're used to playing.
What's interesting about that is they did use it for a good stretch last year before the World Cup. It was literally the same lineup we saw last night, except instead of Weah, it was Quadrado, and I think Fajoli played instead of McKennie, and it was like really effective. I think we had a stretch. We beat Inter, we played PSG at home, and then we played Lazio, and there's another team in there. There's another top team.
A
And
long time
literally,
ago, though, Lou.
yeah, it was like, last year was a marathon of a season. It felt like 5 seasons. So like that is a long time ago. But it worked for a little bit. And I thought pre-match, because we were talking about in the chat, like I thought maybe that's what we would see again. But you could be right. I mean, it is the first time like that team has played it this year. It might have thrown them off just a little bit in the first half.
I want to talk about one other point before we get to the second half thing, is that in the games that looked better for us, one clear cut factor that you could look at is the movement off the ball. Yesterday, in the first half, I don't care who was on the ball, the options were limited and there was not a lot of movement. And I kind of start to think about something that we know is prevalent with Max Allegri and everything, is this freedom in the final third. Okay, so again, keeping this in line with how we judge individuals and what they play. There are things in games like your touch, your decision making, and what that are clearly on the player. Okay, clearly. However, if we're gonna look at when we play players in different roles, okay, different roles like Miretti now being the second striker to Keane and whatnot, but now all of a sudden you also have McKennie that's in the middle of the pitch and stuff. The way he's gonna play in the middle there is different to how Fagioli's going to play in there. And then Weah hasn't been in the lineup for a while, and he was starting to cut in centrally, and Miretti's got to find room and space and occupy his role. When there's too much freedom, I wonder if that's another reason why when we got to get guys in there, they have a tougher time interpreting roles because they're going to do it differently and they're given this freedom. Whereas if every role is clearly defined through training, this is what I want you doing, this is what I want you doing, where I want you moving, it might look a little bit cleaner, maybe a little more fluid. So I start to think about that too, okay? But I've felt like this for a while. It's not just individuals, it's kind of everything, and I think it plays through in every game. Again, a midfield for me has to connect with one another, and if it looks broken like that, I think your game is going to look broken.
The freedom thing is it's a good point, because in the past we had like really great experienced players that occupied those roles, right? So like with a player like take Sami Khedira, for example, like you could tell him to play a certain way and he might like naturally understand it a little bit more because he has all those games, those minutes. And now you're looking at maybe a younger team like someone like Miretti or Fagioli, who maybe just need that extra discipline. And that's where like like going forward and training, like it's good, it's great that they have the freedom, it can help them a lot, but they also may need that like little bit of discipline, like post-match at Atalanta where Allegri goes, hey, like Fagioli, you're 25 yards out, you need to shoot the freaking ball, like you have a chance, take a hit, right? It's little things like that they may need just to clean it up. It's like, hey, when so-and-so's playing here, he likes to cut inside, so like you need to make a run to the outside a little bit, fill the space, right? Like it just small things. I don't think that they're like major detractions for us, but they're minor cleanups that would make us a lot better.
Yeah, and I think it kind of played into when the fact that like Milik came in, and Milik understands the role up top there. Yeah. It changed the game. It did change the game. It was more available. It was more involved. Gave us a reference point up there. It changes, right? So this also shines a light on what Max is having to do because of the roster. It shines a light there. Quality does come into play. Player quality does come into play. Because especially if you're going to run the freedom up top there, these guys need to know. And I've been saying for a while now, over the past couple of weeks, now people are labeling me that I'm protecting or defending Allegri too much, but I'm not. It's a legit fact we have to look at, that the quality is down on the roster. Our management just said it in a subtle way this past week, and that don't worry, we are still going to target high-level players because we need them. But it does come into play. And at the end of the day, these guys have to win their battles on the pitch. It's up to them. Okay. You don't have to look to a coach every time you touch the ball, every time you need to make a decision. You don't need to look at Max. He doesn't need to hold your hand through a game. You've got to win your battles. You got to do your job on the pitch. There is a player quality issue here. But even with the young guys, we're going to talk about it as Yildiz entered this game, as now we get into the second half, okay? He enters very, very late, but we're going to talk about it because it does have something to do with everything that we see as far as the quality level and players that we got coming in. But we're going to kick things off second half, and everybody was waiting for the same thing. Are we going to make some changes? What's going to happen? And we did get the change, as Ant mentioned. Miretti does come off. We get Milik coming in and whatnot. And honestly, the approach, the attitude was right from the outset. We were getting after it, and we were sending bodies forward, and we didn't have to wait very long as we crashed the goal. Vanja Milinkovic-Savic misses this corner. It gets touched over to Keane, who tries a bike, who kicks Bremer in the face, and then Gatti's like hammering away at this thing. Just get it over the damn line. Okay, we celebrate. Well, you got to wait for VAR. And this one, I'm watching this replay on the watch. I'm like, guys, this is like not that complicated. Okay. And, but again, it's Serie A we're dealing with. So number one, do they have the cameras online? Okay.
Yeah,
are the cameras even on? Are they reviewing the actual play?
I think in their defense, I think they were waiting to see if Bremer's head was still attached to his shoulders before they made the call.
Yeah.
They're waiting for him to get patched up.
Also, number two, they had to call the FIGC to see like how they could screw us over. They couldn't find anything to do that.
Stop your nonsense. Too
well,
early
you know
for
what?
your
It did
nonsense.
feel like they were trying very hard to
It
get
was a
this
long
one to not
time
be
to
a
make that
goal.
call.
Okay.
They
Now,
were waiting for Bremer to get up, you numbskulls.
take it easy.
Take
Okay,
it easy.
so L'Arbitro Nick says this actually a straightforward call on a play that looked more complicated than it really was. Here we go directly from the corner kick. Obviously, we talked about the sequence. Keane is in the one that's a question of being in an offside position, okay, as he tried to bike it, and then it was put in by Gatti. But essentially, what they had to find out is they thought that, I believe it was Milik at that point, touched it to Keane. He would have been offside if the touch came from Milik. It was not, okay? It actually came from Tamez, the defender, which automatically puts Keane onside. Then from Keane's touch, okay, you have to look at two defenders that are further back than the goalkeeper, because as soon as the goalkeeper comes out, the second to last defender back becomes the offside line. Gatti well within that one, okay, which makes it onside and everything. So, there you go. Excellent work by VAR here, according to Nick Cardone. This is exactly what VAR is needed for. Very difficult for an assistant referee to see that. However, he did call offside originally, but they could rule clear and obvious error because it wasn't actually Milik that touched that ball, which was their original call of offside. So
Gatti actually scored twice.
Oh yeah, the first one crossed the line and then came back and then he headed it in. I thought eventually he was just going to bowl himself in there and through everybody, but it was awesome. His celebration after with the curva, beautiful to see. Beautiful to see that again.
He's got a little bit of like Bonucci in him. Bonucci made a whole career off of just like cleaning up corners, right? Like, he's got a little striker's instinct in him. I love it.
Yeah. No, it was good seeing his reaction, and honestly seeing his game. Because he said, like, the Sassuolo thing, whatever, I could deal with. Horror show from him. But it's the reaction. It's get back to work, whatever, and still show the drive. And even in the first half, I would say I liked his intentions and his attitude, at least, because it was positive. It was a positive attitude in the first half.
Do you think he's earned the spot over Sandro, even when Sandro becomes healthy?
Yes.
Well, I think he's earned it. Do you think Max starts Sandro over him when he's healthy?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I think Gatti, regardless of where he goes in his future, like how high his potential is and how high he goes, he shows you exactly what we're kind of begging for as fans, which is like, rebuilding like mentality to come back from that horror show against the Swallow, then to be benched, and then to do this in the Derby, which is a massive match, regardless of the quality of Torino. That's really impressive. I think that, like, when Sandro comes back, it's going to be hard to drop someone with that kind of, growth, right? You're
Momentum.
We're looking for mentality, and we'll talk about Milik too. Like, he's another one, only 123 minutes, 2 goals. Like, that's mentality. That's being ready when you're called upon, right?
I don't want to, alarm anybody, okay, when we're talking about Sandro, as you see the comments instantly. I'm just saying I don't know, because I honestly, you just when you think you've got Max kind of figured out, you don't. And I just
No.
have no idea what the hell he's going to do.
He's always good for curveballs, like the
There you
lineup
go.
yesterday. You know, like,
Yeah, like it's just I have no
Two
idea what the guy's
Americans.
gonna do, and I have no problem in saying I have no friggin' clue what he's gonna do. Okay, so it is what it is. But I agree with everybody, and my intention is not to
We know
have
you agree.
Sandro back out there. I stood with Fabrizio Ravanelli when he said I would rather deal with mistakes of this young guy going through to get where we need to be long term. I will deal with the growing pains rather than the guy that every mistake seems to be in the back of the net. So if it's good enough for Ravanelli, it's good enough for me. Okay, so we'll stick with that. 1-0 Juventus. Holy Christ. Okay, we got the lead now. Okay, don't sit back. Don't give them any hope. Don't allow for an equalizer or whatever. But second half, pretty business-like from Juventus, I felt anyways, watching them play. Like, it was controlled. It wasn't all out by any means, but still felt we were likely to get the next one still, even just trying to smash and grab it, as we were mainly just continuing to shut down Torino, which we had all game. I said it going into this game, a guy like Zapata up front, I don't mind that, because we do better against the big physical guys, because Bremer just essentially rules them right out. And Zapata had next to nothing. I think he ended up getting their first opportunity on target through a header, and it was pretty soft and easy for Tech to get it. That was the first attempt on target in the 86th minute from Zapata's head. Outside of that, 61st minute, Milik, corner kick. He beats Vanja Milinkovic-Savic to it, short side. Looked like it went off his shoulder too, but I don't care how. Get in the damn net. Milik's got another one.
Just before that, he missed a sitter of a header from Kostic, which created the corner kick. So
he freaking hammered that thing straight down into the ground. You got to put him down to the ground, but just right at Vanja. Vanja still had to do a little bit of work there. Anyways, he saves that one. That led to the corner. 2-0. Now we can actually be comfortable. Now I had no problems with this game. And I even said 75th minute, I'd probably take a look at like Iling Jr. I'd take a look potentially at Yildiz and get Keane out of there just to see, right? Get some more minutes, because it's 2-0. Torino's been toothless in this thing. We should be comfortable. Keep moving on. And 67th, actually, Gatti almost puts another corner in. Set piece FC, baby. We're set piece FC.
Hey,
I put it on the main. I put on the main yesterday. We were absolutely dominating the airspace in their 18, which is great.
That ability. I mean, you think back to last year, like in the Europa League, we scored a lot of set piece goals. Like, we got height to use it. You know,
if you look at us, and I keep saying it, like last year, like Bremer could have had so many damn goals.
10 goals last year.
Set piece, like it's insane. So Bremer, Gatti, Danilo, who's excellent on set pieces, Rabiot. You've got Keane in there, Milik. Like, hey, there's a lot of threats there aerially. Lou's probably going to not count one of those players as an aerial. It is there. Now, we talked about it, 86th minute, first one for Torino on goal. Zapata, 87th minute, and we have Yildiz in at this point because he came in at 85th. And, dude, he looked good every time he was on the ball. I know later in the game, it's 2-0. You've got a deflated Torino pretty much, but he looked good. He just looked sharp. He looked like he knew exactly what to do every time he touched it, what he was going to try to do. Maybe a couple sequences at the top of the area he might want back, but I was kind of pissed that we didn't get him in a little bit sooner to see a little more of it. Your guys' thoughts on Yildiz when he came in?
Should have came in the 75th minute.
Yeah, I agree. A little bit earlier. That kid, I think, has to have a really high ceiling, because early, like Allegri, like even giving him some minutes, they brought him in like 4 or 5 times already this season. Like, for someone from the next gen to like jump straight there, because if you even think about this, it's pretty crazy. He didn't play with the next gen last year. He was with the U19s last year. He's jumped straight from the U19s to being a sub for the first team. But there's got to be something there. I think as the season goes on, we'll start to see a little bit more and more of him, because I think that whatever he's doing in training like has to be like really impressing these guys because the fact they're giving him some minutes, like Dean Hydruson now he's a defender, but like he was in the next gen last year for a little bit, and he hasn't even seen any minutes. So like Yildiz to just jump from the U19s to this now, like that's pretty crazy. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I gotta see more. And we are gonna get to the end of the game here. I mean, ultimately Sanabria ended up coming in. He got a close chance for them, a volley that went off his shin. He got wrong, but the game ends there. Juve ultimately did what they had to do, get the job done. No Chiesa, no Vlahovic, everything doesn't matter. Find the 3 points. They did. Okay, so now we move into everything post-match. But I'm going to ask this question before we get to performances and man of the match. What the hell has Iling Jr. done that he cannot find a minute in any game, including this one? What has he done?
We have our theories.
Yeah.
Hey, whoa.
I have no idea. Maybe he's not a locker room guy.
Especially about
bad
it.
Attitude. Who knows?
I was going to say that about the attitude because we get those random reports every so often where they talk about like his contract negotiation being tough, like he's tough to negotiate with, that Juventus really don't like his entourage. Like, I wonder if there's something like behind the scenes that we don't see.
It has to be.
He
he's
did
like
not cut his
out.
hair. That's a good theory there.
Yeah.
I think he's. I don't know.
That is a really crowded position, though.
Did he bet against Max's horse? Like, is he betting against Max's horse? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, he used to spend a lot of time with Pogba, and after the testosterone thing, maybe they're like
growth hormones.
Yeah,
growth hormones.
So Paul and Max are good buddies, and Iling Jr. gave him the supplement that's now taken his buddy Paul out. And now Illing's got no minutes. Huh.
I don't know. When he came in, he was always a refreshing change to Kostic whenever he came in. So I might have lost for this one. I have no idea. But to Lou's point, a lot of people there's a big lineup at that position.
The boomers always say it's rap music. Rap music is everything. Maybe he plays too much rap in the locker room. I don't know.
I always feel like this year they intended to start with Cambiasso and Iling like in that position, and then they couldn't sell Kostic, so now they kind of have to play him. Like it's just like one of those things where it's like you kind of do have to play him. Like,
do you think they're playing Kostic for a mid-season sale?
No, let me go. So I don't think it's that they think Kostic is a bad player. Like he's a good player. I just think that they wanted to sell him because they could make some money off of him, and then like kind of surprisingly they ended up retaining him. And now, like, you have a really good player and two really other good players. Like, now you're trying to find, like, there's three good players in that position, right? Where I think the intention was to get rid of one of them, and they ended up not getting rid of one of the three. So now you have three good players in that position. It's hard. It's really weird.
I think what I find bizarre about is the fact that Kostic and Cambiasso had a little bit of a streak there where neither was really impressing, and Iling still couldn't become even, like, the sub option in a game. Like, it was... The whole thing's just bizarre. I don't know, but like for a guy that Juve we keep hearing wants to extend and keep around, it's not really promising and probably not going to amount. They'll probably have to sell him if that's going to be the case. I can't see him wanting to stay around when there's that much interest in him, even in the homeland for Iling Jr. And it's kind of a shame because I think there's a lot of talent there. I even said I was throwing out the option, the potential of playing him up, partnering Keane yesterday, which I wouldn't have mind seeing.
Do you think so there's a lot of rumors going around now about us gradually switching to a back four. Allegri talked about a little bit post-match. He went 4-4-2. You think if they switch to a back four, maybe we see a little bit more of him? Just based on the amount, like the numbers of people that we have, right? To play in that role. Like if we went 4-3-3, right? You have after Kostic at left wing, you have Chiesa and you have Iling. Like it's that's it, right? So I don't know that maybe that's what they're holding out for. Like maybe
I don't really think so because I think even if you go in the direction of what those rumors suggest, like 4-3-1-2 or 4-2-3-1, whatever, I still think that he's going to be back of the totem pole on the set positions that he would then occupy even in that formation change, right? If I'm looking at Iling, like, I don't know. Like, I go back to the summer when Max kept trying him as Metsala, and I'm thinking, like, I don't really feel like he wants him where we usually see him. And I think he's looking at those alternatives, but he's not going to be, if you're looking at trying to play him in those roles, he's going to be way further back on the totem pole than at the outside. Because there's no way you're going to play Iling. There's no way I'm going to play him in the middle of the park before Fagioli, Rabiot, even Hans Nicolucci Caviglia, to be honest, or Miretti. Like, I'm not playing him in the middle of the park ahead of those guys.
Well, so, Kenny was started in there, so there you go.
It's really bizarre to me, the whole Iling thing. So if this is going to be the case, yeah, we'd probably be better off getting the money. But I think it's a shame because I think there's a really talented player there that we should try to get more out of.
I think we're one injury away from a defender or a winger to really needing him. Like, if I would never wish this. If Gatti goes down or Bremer goes down and we need an emergency situation at left back, right? And Sandro's still out, right? Who do you have back there? Cambiasso, I guess, but then now you put Iling to replace Kostic. So,
well, if you're talking about the wing backs and injuries, because like center backs will be covered. You got Rugani, you've got Hewson, Lord DeShilio will at some point come back, and Max will definitely use him in one of those roles. But I agree with you, if the fullbacks, if we get an injury at the wing back position, yeah, you're going to be calling upon him for sure. But it's weird with the whole Iling thing. It's weird.
Very weird.
Now,
It's also weird when you think back last year, like they started him in a Europa League semifinal game in the second leg in a much-win game, and now we're playing one competition a week in Serie A. Like, you can't find any minutes. It is a little
right. Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. So, Nick coming in here, L'Arbitro Nick, by the way. I think Iling is going to leave no matter what. He wants the Premier League. Why play this guy and develop him in the team if he's just going to leave? Just use him as a sub, in my opinion. And this is a good point because maybe, just maybe, behind the scenes, there is no shot at the extension. And maybe Juve knows this, Max knows this, and this is actually a very, very good point. So, well done, L'Arbitro Nick. Sharp. On fire, this guy. Now, the Juventus official fan clubs sponsored, okay, as we are partners with them, man of the match for the Derby della Mola. We're going to get into that. I also want to remind everybody that I need to know, you guys can reach out to us or even just drop it in the chat here, if you are a member of an official fan club, okay, or if you're thinking about becoming a member of an official fan club, what has led you, okay, what intrigued you the most? Was it the watch parties? Was it tickets? Availability and easier to get access to them? Was it all the great stuff that they give you as far as perks and discounts to the store? What led you to become a member, or what is intriguing you about becoming a member? I need to know. And if you want to get your thoughts currently on how you feel as a Juventus fan, we've been asked to basically put together random opinions and thoughts and feelings from fans as a fan base. Going to put together a presentation, is actually going to be brought to Turin next week during the 100 years of Agnelli celebration. Don't worry, because if you are feeling kind of down or slightly disconnected, you can say that. He literally wants everything for this meeting, okay? If you're feeling positive, if you're feeling kind of somewhat negative, drop it all, hit it all with us. This is your chance to actually have your voice kind of heard and whatnot. It's a great opportunity. Reach out to us. It could be in a short video format, or it could just be written up, all right? And Lou, yes, they'll get your thoughts on Adrian Rabiot, okay? We will.
Yes, thank you.
Oh my God.
But you can't have an essay, okay? It just needs to be short. Just keep it short.
Right to Elkin.
No, but in all seriousness, this is a great opportunity for everybody. I've got my stuff put through, and I'm sure others in the team are going to put some together, but we have to take these opportunities, and if they're asking, that's kind of interesting too when you start thinking about what's going on with the management. I said about the positivity coming through in this past week. Actions are trying to rebuild the trust of the tifosi, and that cannot be ignored, everybody, okay? So let's take advantage of these opportunities. Now, man of the match, Ant, who is your man of the match in this?
Well, this might come as a shock to some, but it's not Tech, who I thought had a poor first half. I didn't get to say that. I thought he wasn't really controlling his 18 in the first half. I thought he had a better second half. For me, the man of the match is someone who affected the match with their play the most. When this guy came in at halftime, the game completely changed. My man of the match is Milik.
You know
Game
what?
completely turned when he came in.
I had it between Milik and another gentleman, but let's get Lou's man of the match.
Mine was Gatti.
There you go.
Good game overall. Got the first goal, broke the deadlock. But both these guys, like I said earlier, like credit to both of them because Gatti obviously had that horrible error. Like he bounced back. Milik doesn't play a lot, but when he's called on, he's effective. 2 goals in 123 minutes. I mean, can't ask for a better striker. And those are like the type of players that make great teams. Not just the great players. It's those like side role players that, step up and build mentality. Like that's what we're talking about with build mentalities, both those guys. So fitting that
honorable mention to Weah on my list. I had Weah and Keane as honorable mentions.
Milik is better as a sub, I'd say. More effective as a sub. Like it happens time and time again. When he starts a game, you're like, okay. But like when he comes in, he's great going against some tired legs. Like he's solid. I had it between Gatti and Milik. Ultimately, I went with Gatti, and I did probably because a little bit more of just the reaction and what we needed out of him, especially out of the Sassuolo debacle and stuff, and how he's come back and whatnot, and starting to learn more and more about this guy as he goes. But I think his attitude and his approach, especially coming off of where he was, it's great. Like, he's not going to crumble. He's going to be the same Gatti that we had the same expectations of, the same high hopes for and everything, and he's not changing, and I love that. He's still going to go at it. He's not shying away by any means, and he's still getting involved in that final third. Like, I just like everything from the attitude point. I'm going to give it to Gatti, but Milik is right there in this one. Now, we are going to talk about some of these other performances. We covered Miretti when we were talking about the halftime there, but I'm just going to say this as far as it goes to kind of wrap things up on Miretti. I think we should get him back into a bench role and coming off the bench and just kind of lighten the load as far as the expectations and you keep wanting that contribution that's kind of not coming to like get the monkey off the back, but when you start going to the well too much, it can become an overwhelming thing for a guy, and especially now second striker, all this. I think we need to get back to basics. I think he should be a rotational piece and do it out of one of the Mezzala roles. That's what I think. Real quick, do you guys want to touch on that before we get on to the next player?
For me, this was the same start he had last year. Came out, played well, and then started to fade, and Fagioli came in and just Wally pipped his role. So I think the same thing's going to happen. Another thing is, how are people with the excuse with Fagioli and Rabiot didn't have a preseason, so they're not game fit yet? Get off me with that. We're 7 games in the season, 8 games in the season. Get off me with that. They should be game fit by now. Stop it.
I was just gonna say that, like, if Moretti's dropped to the bench, like Fagioli hasn't been that great either. So we're gonna have a similar problem if he doesn't step up and like start to look like the person he was last year, right? So I mean, unless McKinney's gonna play there long term, which isn't really that exciting either. But
well, he's next up on the deck, and I agree with you. And I've been wanting way more out of Fagioli when he does get in there. But again, for me, it comes back to he's doing the same thing Rabiot's doing, that all these other guys are doing, bombing up and bailing out on, abandoning Locatelli and abandoning the defenders at the back that are on the ball, because we just want to launch it forward and whatnot. So Fagioli's capable of so much, and that's why it infuriates me how we use our midfielders. It's infuriating to watch because you know what's there.
There is also like some individual annoyances with Fagioli, because I do think, like I said earlier, there's a player that could score goals. There's a player who create goals that we do not see enough of.
Yeah.
and that comes down to like taking risks. Like we need to see more of that, right? Like I understand, like, yeah, he's not playing like consecutively. Like maybe you're like a little bit afraid, but like that was a problem even last year to an extent a little bit, where it's like there are games where he's really, really good on the ball, and like you're like, hey, like this guy could have scored more than 3 goals last year. Like he has that in him, right? Like he's got a great right foot. Like he's gonna go eye for goal. He needs to get in the box, try to shoot a little bit more, make some passes, try to create something. Like he could be huge for us in that regard if he steps up, and that would be a massive lift to the midfield.
Yeah. Yeah. We are not getting the most out of Fagioli, nowhere near it. We did bring up McKennie. McKennie in the midfield. I said a lot about going to this after his dad put out the post.
Thanks, Dad.
I've seen enough of him in the midfield. I think he has good spurts there usually when he plays, but then fades out immediately. And yesterday I kind of felt that way too. And we've been there, done that. I feel like it's not enough in the midfield, and especially when you have Rabiot as one of your midfielders as well. So if you're gonna rock Rabiot and McKennie as your two Metsalas, I don't like it. What do you guys think?
I think it was just a doorstop yesterday. It was a one-off. He was fine. That's not going to be the rest of the season, that's for sure, once Kies and Vlahovic come back. So one-off game like that, I'll give it a pass on McKennie. I thought he was fine. I didn't think he was terrible. I thought he played better than Rabiot, if that's anything.
One thing about McKennie where he lacks in like technical skills, he is an absolute menace to play against. He's always like running the challenges. He wins balls back. Like does like that part of it. But in the right wing back role, I think that's where he'll stay this year. I don't know why they don't use Hans at all. That's kind of puzzling. They kept him around and hasn't played a minute yet. So
yeah, Luca's loading a lot of minutes, like a lot of minutes.
So I'm curious to see where that goes, like as the season goes on. But to answer your question, like I don't think that, like Anthony said, like it's a one-off. Like I don't think we'll see McKennie in the midfield long term.
He's playing too good on the outside to keep him on the inside.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's just it, right? Like, I mean, we got a guy that when he was playing in the midfield all the time, we ended up trying to get rid of and trying to sell. And it's like now all of a sudden we're going back to it, but you need to find something that you're going to move forward with and be solid with. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And he's given us his best at that right wing back role. I don't need to continue with him in the midfield, to be honest. And Fagioli was available. It was a weird one for me not to get him in there and play. It was just it was weird. It was weird. Nonetheless, McKennie was in there. He ultimately did okay. Allegri gets the Uno di Noi chant from the Curva. Okay. Man, was I pissed off when I started reading what I was reading out there, social media and stuff. Just claims like there's the fans that actually know what he did for us. And the fans that realize what he did for us. We know damn well what they're trying to imply and what they're trying to insinuate. And that is that fans that are frustrated and maybe wanted a coaching change there, it's as if they discredit all of Max's accolades leading up to that point or whatnot. But at the same time, holy fuck, like Lippy was fucking incredible. If you asked me today, would you bring back Lippy? I'd say no. Like, what are we talking about? It's not a discredit to them. It's not when fans share their opinions. And I just hate reading and seeing shit like that because it's just so... It's kind of like you're coming off on a pedestal as a fan. And there is no levels to fandom. Okay? And when you're sharing opinions, it is what it is. And you can't blame a fan base when your club is actively seeking a coach, holding job interviews during the summer.
There was job interviews. That actually did happen.
Like, what are we talking about? It's always this battle out there to be right or whatever and levels of fandom, it's bullshit. We can never be happy. A 2-0 victory, like ultimately our play needs more, and we've all covered this through this game and whatnot. We need to keep growing, but they need to figure out the middle of the park. Biggest thing. But it doesn't mean I'm not happy about the 2-0 win. It doesn't mean even if I thought we should have made a coach change, I'm not going to back Max fully this year. But make no mistake about it, it has fuck all to do with what he won in the past. It has everything to do with wanting Juve to succeed now, today. Thank you for that. No one's going to take it away. He just became the most winningest coach during the 3-point era, 289 wins. He's tied Trapattoni with 13 wins in the Derby for most Derby wins. But this nonsense kind of has
his first positive record broken in 2 years.
There you go. There's another stat line. But yeah, like I just...
Congratulations.
There comes a point where I just kind of like... We got to like take it easy. We got to be happy. It's okay to be happy.
Yeah, people just need to realize that there's no I in fandom, but there's two in idiot. So just sometimes you just have to say some people are just idiots. You gotta move on.
Yeah, I also think like the Curva, like
a lot of the time,
Allegri has backed the Curva in the press. So like there's definitely like a little bit of like a hey, thank you for helping us get back sort of thing. Like like. But for us, like you can respect what he did in the past and like what he's done, even in like the collapse that was last year, kind of being that like last standing force for the club when everyone like had to resign, and at the same time still be like, hey, like our play could be better, Yeah,
he was the only one in the building last year,
and then
all the flack that we gave him last year.
Yeah,
he was the only one there.
That was an incredible like. You even saw like remember the Atalanta game where he's on the touchline like celebrating, like the poor guy was left to die last year.
It's like,
but you can also spin zone and say, hey, not just the Allegri like supporters, but the like I'm always unhappy FC that occupies Juventus. You can also say, hey, we won the Derby yesterday. It's 2-0. Like be happy for the win. Have your critiques. But like, let's also look bigger picture. We're 2 points off the top of the table. We've started off pretty good for the most part. Like, let's you can enjoy both, right?
I told you so.
To RB Comp's point, this is exactly what I'm talking about because he says that there are still fans that would rather see Juve lose so they can say I told you so. But I'll tell you this: there are also fans that did that while Sarri came in and while Pirlo came around to prove a point about Max Allegri. So this whole thing does not tie into those that want Allegri out or wanted Allegri out at some point. I feel a certain way that right now the season we're into it. Okay, we're 8 games deep. We're 17 points out of a possible 24. I'm happy about that. Okay, I'm happy where we stand. Inter's going to drop points. Milan's going to drop points. Like it's going to happen. We're going to be in the thick of this. I believe it's going to be a tight race the whole way. I still have concerns, questions, and doubts around our club and whether we can hit the level we need to. But when I criticize Max, and when we were talking about Max last season, the year before, I wasn't bringing up what the fuck he was doing fucking 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years, because it's irrelevant.
Matter.
And that's the point, is that they're bringing up, oh, these fans recognize what he did. When you're analyzing or covering a team or criticizing or talking about them, we're talking about the now. We're not talking about what the fuck happened then, okay? Do you get evaluated at your job for what you did 2 years ago, or do you get evaluated on the spot for the performance you're currently doing? Because if I had a monster year and I was the balls, okay, and now all of a sudden I'm shit in the bed this year, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, but he was the balls last year. It's all
great
good.
Job last year. Great job.
No fucking way. That's not real life, okay? So at some point they got to come back and realize that life isn't, rainbows and butterflies, and it's what's going on right now. Okay.
Big hugs and bran muffins.
Yeah, and then like you said, like it's fair because we are happy. Like we started off good. The job so far, good. Could get improved, right? Every team can make improvements. Even the best teams, even Inter, who's in first place, can make improvements. Like that's part of the progression of a season is you improve as you go on, right? Every team can do that, but you can also say here, like as good as we started, there's a couple lumps in the road. So like you just say, hey, like what did we do wrong in those games? Like the first half, what did we do wrong in the first half? How did we change it at halftime? credit to Max for changing it, but do those changes carry over to the next game? Like, that's a fair take with saying respectfully, like Max did a really good job at halftime. He made the second half adjustments, but in the first half, he really didn't do a good job with the starting lineup. So it's a respectable opinion, right? It's not pro Allegri, it's not anti Allegri. It's just facts, right?
Yeah. And Dom, yes, I realize we're 2 points behind Inter, 4 behind AC Milan. They're in first place, but what I'm saying is AC Milan is going to drop points as well. They're not going to go through here unscathed. Inter is actually, in my opinion, the guys that you're probably going to want to stick to the most. I think AC Milan is going to have some type of drop-off and whatnot. That's just me.
They also may not make it through that. They may finish last in that group in the Champions League.
Yeah, which actually would
even though they were in there.
Probably
Totally
help them for Serie A and whatnot. But yeah, they can't score in that group, and they're just drawing.
No
these
idea
games
whose group they're even in. Whose group are they
Group
in?
of death,
So-
Tony. That's all you got to know.
Yeah. So the thing is, all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I just don't like it when there's
Oh yeah.
fans
You got
trying
no
to
chance.
create a level to fandom and whatnot based off opinions, and then calling other fans ungrateful, because that's what that comment is insinuating, that this fan base that may have wanted to change is ungrateful for what happened in the past, whatnot, which is 1,000% not the case. Okay, not the case.
Anyways, get your Storm in the Barn questions in. How about that?
We're a passionate fan base.
Storm in
Okay.
the Barn question.
And it's all about, at the end of the day, seeing Juve succeed. I don't give a shit who the coach is. I don't give a shit who the players are. But we
Wow.
got to stop, and we got to be better with one another out there, because that's bullshit is flat out what it is.
Just
okay?
be nice to everybody.
It's
That really
bullshit.
helps life.
Now,
Except,
Funny.
well, Lou, you have to be.
I'm going to leave it open
nicer
to
to some
you
people.
guys to start Storm the Barn with some questions, because we do have time for Storm the Barn, so let's fire it up here. What are your questions? Lou, do you got a question for everybody? What's the Champions League?
Yeah.
I got one.
I
got a
hear
quick
about
one.
it, although I'm not really sure, though.
I know we
That's
sort of
the
touched on it, but maybe just a yes or no. Does it even make sense to sell Iling Jr. or Kostic in January? Consider we might be bringing one in. If we bring in a midfielder, would that leave space to sell one of those? Or no? Different position.
They're wing backs, yeah. I'm playing wing backs for us.
I would. 'Cause I think we have enough coverage at that role that if we did sell one, we could.
I would sell Kostic before I sell Iling Jr. though.
I would agree with that as well.
I gotta know why the fuck we're not playing him, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because all of a sudden, what point does it make to keep a guy around if he's not going to extend his contract?
Can we
That could
get Mirko Romeo to ask Allegri that in the next presser? Can we send them a message to say, hey, can you ask him about this?
Yeah, it's weird. I can't figure out the Iling one, but I would tend to agree that we could sell one come winter mercado. But as for who I'm going to pick, I really need to know why Illing's not getting minutes all of a sudden, especially when Lou brings up the point that, shit, we played him in the semifinal game, started him and whatnot. Now all of a sudden we can't get him in against like Lecce. We can't get him in the game.
That game too.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Michael Lloyd saying, to be honest, we will be lucky to make the top 4. So my question will be, are you guys afraid of not making top 4, Lou?
No, not even
I have
the
no
slightest.
concerns about missing out on top 4.
The 5th team is Atalanta, which classically everyone always gets afraid of Atalanta till March when they collapse, and then
They're actually losing. I think they're losing 2-0 down to Lazio right now.
2-1.
that is
2-1
bad result.
2-1 at half. 2-1 at half. And Juve's B side, Frosinone, up 1-0 against Verona.
Okay, so you have the top 4: Milan, Inter, Juventus, Napoli, and then the next contenders are Fiorentina, clown show; Atalanta, clown show; Monza, disaster; Lecce, joke show; Bologna. Now Bologna is the one that you brought up earlier. Thiago Motta's doing. I think he has 1 loss in his last 11 games or something. I saw that on the Matrix.
Coach.
So he's doing a good job. He's going to take points off of people. At the end of the day, they're a bunch of jokesters. They're not going to finish in the top 4.
Bologna's
so really,
aim this season is one of the European spots, and to be honest, 6th wouldn't be a stretch for them to get into one of those spots. Like,
right.
that's a slight improvement on what they had last year. Like, They could do it. They could do it.
I
They
think
got
the
off to
top
a rocky
four.
start, but they could do it.
I got a
I think the
storm the
top four are
bar.
going to separate themselves by Christmas. There'll be like a 6 point gap, and then the four just start to make their way away.
I get a also good point about the winter this year. No winter break. Playing through the holidays.
All right,
First,
there's got to be a
that's
week or two. Is it 2 weeks or just 1 week?
yeah, look, it's a right through.
Why
I
is
love
that?
that. I love it.
They passed the rule a couple years ago, and I kind of forgot about it till I looked at our schedule, and it's like right through. So no winter break this year.
So the
that's
Juve
amazing.
duo are playing great at Frosinone as LJJ's tuning into the match. Going to remind everybody, get those likes up, get your Storm the Barn questions in. So top four, we're not concerned.
My storming the barn question, Sule, what do we do with him next year? Think he comes back?
It depends if he can keep what he's doing going for the whole season. But otherwise, I would say yeah, based on what we want to do in terms of the rest of the roster, which will also be determined by performances as the year goes. But I think like if we're going to make a shift, which I think is going to come at some point to a 4-man back system, I would bring Sule up because then you open up like a 4-3-3 or something, or even in a 4-2-3-1 where he can actually operate. And I would do it. I'd bring him back probably. If he can keep that steady for the year, I would.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if Conte wants him back next year.
Don't do that.
Easy. Well, then we're not going to 4-man back.
Conte's going to go coach Roma like the loser he is.
He, I honestly do believe this is Max's last year, no matter what happens.
No matter what.
happens, I think this is Max's last year.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And even if he goes undefeated from here on out, I really do think they're going to make a change there.
Yeah. We had Omer and I were having a good chat in the green room yesterday about just coaches in general. And I just think like he brought up Mota and him. And I said, for me, Mota is not considered as high as the other guys because he's not as flashy and the games aren't as flashy, but I think he should actually be getting more shouts than he is over other guys. Like for me, all summer when like we were here about Tudor and whatnot, and I wouldn't have had a problem Tudor or whatnot, but like Italiano and whatever, I would take Mota probably ahead, to be honest. Like looking at what's going on, looking at what he's doing with what he has, I think he should be higher up in the ranks in terms of a shot at the next.
What about Palladino? Monza started to get really good.
Yeah, I need to see a little more. They started off the season kind of rocky in games they would have wanted, but now they're kind of starting to look like
the table for a mid-table
starting to get
club.
it together. They're at 12 points now or something like that. So they're coming on again now. Last year,
They won this
what was
morning.
crazy with Mota is that they were the giant killers, and they were actually like had a great record against the big clubs, right? So he's in the mix too. But Mota, I think, needs to be higher up. But the problem with me and Mota is always the interconnection. I fucking can't get over it. But
yeah, Mota, like one thing I really like about Mota, he does like he makes do with what he has. Like, it's not a lot on that team. I mean, Orsolini's a good player, but they don't have like a ton of Monza is like good for like a couple like bright young talents. They had that one guy, I think he just got called up to the national team. I can never remember his name, but we've been linked to him recently. Something with the ski, Popolani, something like that. They always have like one or two like bright young players where it's like with Bologna and Mota, like they don't like ever have like a really good team. It's just the way that they play, like they're annoying to play against. They pick up results against the top sides, like that, and that's a sign of like a really good coach, right? Where it's like you can tell with Mota, like whatever he's doing is it works there.
Yeah. Can you highlight? I think you're going to highlight the same thing I was about to say.
I'm going to pull this one up because Alex is saying the names we're discussing for coach at Juve, we're in big trouble. But you got to realize something. Where the project is, where it currently stands, and the names you want to bring into Juve, it's not appealing to those guys. And that's the reality. These guys are not going to want to come to a team that's, if we're talking about it, they're going to want those oil money clubs that can give them exactly what they want and what they're after. So you have to look at these other guys. If you're waiting for Klopp, you're waiting for Pep, you're waiting for these guys, like it's not going to happen. It ain't going to happen. Zidane, everybody wants Zidane and whatnot. I don't see Zidane taking that shot.
Also, like to say, like Max Allegri obviously did really great for us in his first term. When we signed him to replace Conte, he was like a dead manager. Remember, he was the guy that ruined AC Milan. You can't predict that. Like Conte was a Serie B manager when we hired him.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm looking at RB Comps' message there. It says Motta and Palladino are Juve level. What level do you think Juve's at? Because I thought they were high. Lou keeps knocking me down, especially with the Azzurri team and Juventus, like knocking down my perception. This team is not a European contending team. Let's get real. We're barely contending for the Scudetto. So, Motta not being our level, I don't know about that.
Also, when you're hiring coaches, right? You're hiring coaches for their ethos, their what they believe in, right? Like who they are, people. You're not hiring people based on level, things like that. It's one thing to throw a ton of money at a coach. Like Liverpool could do that with Jurgen Klopp. They had the money to sustain a 5-6 year project. Juventus really doesn't have that, and this is also a fan base that doesn't accept anything less than the Scudetto. So if you're going to bring in a top coach and you're going to have to invest in him long term to rebuild a team, we may not be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then also, Berto, you made a good point. Like, who would take that job? Like, everyone goes, "Oh, just bring back Conte; he'll take it." It's like Conte literally has left 4 jobs because they couldn't financially back him, including Juventus, where he won the Scudetto 3 times in a row. Like
why do we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again?
So, and I get it. Like I RB, like I see here, I also want trophies, right? Like I do as well. But if we're building a project and we want to build from a new manager, we need a manager that fits like what we can do. Like one thing I'll say about Max Allegri, whether you like him or not, he's not one of those managers who's running around complaining about signings, right?
Yeah.
He's just like hey, like this is what I got, like I'm making do with it. It's one of his more admirable qualities.
Except last year it was kind of annoying because he kept pointing to the fact of injuries and shit like that, and we were losing to all these chumps, and it was like, dude, I don't really think you need a Pogba or even a Di Maria to get by these sides. Not even get by them, but generate fucking scoring chances against them, like struggling. Play a game, right? Yeah. That was kind of frustrating, but the real fact of the matter, and we see Spalletti, I take Spalletti. Yeah, sure. I mean, the fact is, though, is that you cannot predict what the hell's going to happen. And at the end of the day, it all has to come together. Your coach and the players that you supply him and everything. And that's why when we look at a list of potential targets, you have to think about that aspect. And the players what are you going to present to them? Is it going to be enticing enough? Right now, we're trying to get back into Champions League. And if some of these big coaches came available right now, do you think Juve is going to be at the top of the list of places that they want to go? And it sucks to hear that. It's sometimes the truth fucking hurts, but the truth is I don't see it as being that appealing right now for that higher echelon or elite level managers that you guys want to aim for. The truth is any one of these guys that some are calling chumps in the chat or whatnot might come in and might pull what Conte did when he came in out of fucking seemingly nowhere and put it all together. You don't know.
Undefeated season.
And this is one thing that I used to defend Max last year, because when everybody was saying, hey, and I'm even saying it a couple weeks ago on this show, saying that maybe, just maybe, even a coaching change doesn't change this current Juve, and we might have the same struggles moving forward until all of a sudden it gets right.
Okay.
You don't know.
I need to address this because there's a couple things in the comments, and Alex is a longtime supporter, so I can address him in the comments. Shout out to Alex P for all your support. But first off, you said they were all chumps. Most of Twitter thought Spalletti was a chump before he won the title last year.
Yep.
To be fair.
100%.
So, and then also this cult of modern football. Thiago Motta is not a modern football, that cult of modern football. Thiago Motta's teams aren't that. They're not your De Zerbis. They're not your Italianos.
Yeah.
They kind of they grind out results. They're not playing extravagant football. They're more of what we're accustomed to.
That's why I just said he's not getting a lot of shouts because he's not flashy.
So
they're not flashy at all.
This is a cult of modern football. I get you do want to shoot higher, but if you want to shoot higher, like who's your realistic names? Like you mentioned Spalletti, he coaches the national team. Like he's gonna come down to Juve. Like unless we miss the Euro, like what's he gonna do? And then if he misses the Euro, like are you gonna want him in a year? I don't know. So I saw that in the comments, had to address it. Alex, you're the best for your support. Thanks. But
it's an interesting discussion, right? But for right now, like I say to everybody, Allegri's here. I'm gonna back him 1,000% through this season because we need Juve definitely like top 4. Shouldn't be the aim. Like that should just be a given. Okay, top 4 playing only one comp, but I think we're capable of a little more. We're going to back Allegri all season, all the way through the end. One thing's for sure, no matter what anybody thinks about him, I actually have a ton of respect for him. And that's maybe why I get a little fired up about what I talked about earlier, the level of fan and whatnot, because I'm not ungrateful for what he did and whatnot. And I actually have always said, as far as being a Juventino, like I will always show him that respect because he's never afraid to and never shies away from calling things how he sees them. And he's been a true Juventino towards media and fighting the fight for Juventus. And after last season, it increased my amount of respect for him because he should have never been put in that situation to be the only guy in front of the cameras. And he was.
The only
so for
one.
me, I'll always have a ton of respect for Max through that situation and what he did and how he treated it. So for me, I'll always have respect. And this season, I hope he can bring us back to the top. And I actually believe we can do it. I still believe we can do it. There's doubts. There's been hiccups here in the first 8 games. I still think we can do it, but you got to figure out that middle of the park, Max. You really got to do it, brother.
Good point yesterday on the American Serie A telecast. One of the commentators was saying we've seen Juventus kind of shithouse their way to Scudetto before, and we've seen Allegri do that, right? Not the best team, but get through.
Yeah,
we weren't the best team the year after Cardiff, Tony. You know that.
Yeah,
we won that.
And it says Allegri ball sucks.
I can't remember.
I'm not a fan of the style. Okay. I'm not, but I'm just talking about him as an individual. I will always respect. Respect. And as far as that goes, but you guys, every time it gets to coaches, you guys in the live chat, you guys just get fired up. I don't know. Me, I'm always calm. I never get fired up. I don't know what's up with you guys. It's Sunday. I
just looked at it real quick. Last season, we started the season at this point, 3 wins, 4 draws, and a loss.
Oof.
Right? 3 wins, 1, 2, 3, 4 draws. We drew Sampdoria, Rome, Fiorentina.
So 13 points. So we're 4 points higher.
But that was an ugly start. Oh my God, that was an ugly start.
It sure didn't feel like
lost
it was
to Monza.
4 points less at this point. Hey, it didn't feel like it was 4 points less than this start, but.
Not like we were getting relegated last year.
Oh, look at this! Now I'm an Allegri fanboy. Here we go. Oh my God! Come on! I'm just saying, there's gonna be a lot of unknown. Any way you hash it, make changes, whatnot. For this season, I would just rather spend my energy backing everybody that's there than continuing to go at somebody for whatever. I'm still analyzing all the games. I'm still calling it how I see it. And the midfield needs to be sorted out. And I think that comes more from the staff than the actual personnel. You got to stop launching them forward. You need to get them involved in build-up. That's a coaching thing. That's not a player thing. So a lot of work to do. But hey, again, we'll
be here.
I don't see anybody running away with it in Serie A. I said it was going to be a tight race, and I actually think it's going to do. My prediction was I think we can snag this title. I'm still I have more doubts than I did probably at the start of the year, but we can do it. We can do it.
Fully
Lou was kind of with me on that prediction. How are you feeling about it? 8 games in?
I have a little bit more doubts, but I still think we can win the title this year.
I am more confident now than I was on the prediction show that we'll win this goddamn thing.
Well, now we're coming in 4th.
There we go.
After you said that.
You son of a bitch.
Luis Barbosa, Allegri is the tortoise and Serie A is there. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens, and we're going to be here along the way. I did say it was going to be a bumpy ride. I do expect it to be a bumpy ride, but it's still going to be a tight race all the way through. Lazio, if they can pull the win off against Atalanta, creates a little room there. The other teams outside of Atalanta, Anthony covered it perfectly. Okay. I'm not really threatened there. We know who are going to be the four, I think, already 8 games in around there. I'd be very, very surprised if anybody outside of that slides in there. There's problems at Roma. Lazio is Jekyll and Hyde. Atalanta is Jekyll and Hyde. Fiorentina, good one game, absolutely thrashed in another. Like, consistency is going to be the key question of any of those teams that could maybe surprise somebody in the top 4. Outside of that, it's going to be, AC, Inter, us, Napoli, and for Juve, consistency, fuck. We got to sort it out first and then become consistent. So, middle of the pitch, everybody, sort it out. 2-man pivot, would you do it?
Yeah, I think we're going to see it before the end of the year. That's another thing I wanted to bring up in the closing here.
Well, let's finish off with it.
People who are obsessed with hey, we can't play a back 3, we need to play a back 4. They need to remember historically, Allegri always starts the season the way he finished it the year before. It's always the same lineup. It's the way the season ends. He just carries it over. And then it comes to November, December, sometimes even the next year. And then he tinkers it. We play a formation that plays to the end of the year. So
that's what happened last year.
The formation, the lineups. Let's just take a deep breath. Long season to go. We're on pace, and clearly we see from the open training sessions, they are working on some sort of back 4. Whether
we still have 30 games left.
Yeah.
30 league games.
Yeah. So the thing with me is the middle's the biggest question mark. Chiesa getting fit, Vlahovic getting fit, and all this talk even yesterday for me was kind of masked because of the sense that I still see us suffering the same fate even when they're in the lineup. The midfield needs to hold things down. They need to control games and whatnot. It needs to be much, much better. They need to be an actual unit. 2-man pivot for me, it makes complete sense if we're going to stay in this 3-5-1-1, 3-5-2, however the hell you want to call it. It makes a lot of sense because teams can rule out Locatelli, and then with those guys bombing forward, again, when you get the ball to the flanks that we need to be strong, as Lou pointed out earlier on the show, that's too easy to shut down if you're going to take the Metzalas out of the play. 2-man pivot, give us more options, spread other teams out more when they're trying to stop us, and we should be able to build through that a lot easier. And then have a creative guy that can assist left side, right side, and give our flanks more options to play. 2-man pivot is something I would definitely try. Who? That's a whole different topic there. But I do believe Fagioli can occupy one of those roles with Locatelli. I think we've got players that can do it next to him. I'm also not scared to do Rabiot in there. Because Rabiot's done it. He did it before with Zakaria, for Christ's sake. And it looked fantastic. But people are saying no Rabiot in a 2-man pivot. Hey, I'm not putting McKennie in there.
As the president and CEO of the I Hate Adrien Rabiot fan club, he literally plays a 2-man pivot for France.
I know.
About
it's for me, all signs are pointing to the 2-man pivot, and I'm gonna scream it from the rooftops, okay? 2-man pivot in the center, 100%. Let's go. Let's start protesting and get it going.
One last question. Do you guys regret not signing Berardi this summer?
No regrets.
No regrets?
No, I'm fine with it. I think so with one competition, I think we'll be fine with it.
So I kind of think that with this talk about the 2-man pivot, there's a part of me that kind of wishes we would have, because I think he could play that trequartista role that kind of helps link the play up a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to decide our season that we didn't sign him, but there's a part of me that kind of wonders if he could give us that creative link between the midfield and the strikers.
Yeah, I just don't regret it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
Look, in hindsight, it's I wouldn't have minded ultimately if that was the case. I wasn't really for it. I just think it is what it is. I didn't think that would be our problem, and looking at a setup of a 3-5-2 it didn't make sense to me that, like, okay, we're going for Berardi. Are we in fact going to switch to a 4-3-3? And are we going to make that switch after a whole mercado where you were essentially sticking to the 3-5-2? It just didn't make sense to me, right? So to say regret, like, no, I don't think any regrets. Actually, in that trequartista role, who I actually would put there, and it's not even really like a trequartista role. It's just like your advanced attacking mid role, but it would be Fagioli, to be honest.
Yeah.
I would play Fagioli in a triangle ahead of Rabiot and Locatelli. And I think it would help this midfield a lot to have structure to it. And those guys working. Those three were our three best midfielders all of last season. Okay?
They were.
And at points, we were switching into a two-man pivot. And it was Rabiot and Locatelli. Let's like stop just doing things and seeing them work and then never seeing them again. Like, let's actually give stuff opportunity to grow and develop. We should be doing that. That's what I think.
No, listen, I agree with the solution. I just figured, we're linked to him in January a bunch. I figured I'd throw it out there. Probably won't be the last time we talk about it.
Well, do you think he's going to come in January, Lou?
Depends who goes out. But I think they're going to try and make a move for either him or another midfielder. I think that's dead set.
Jadon Sancho news, and Omer actually brought this up on the show a couple episodes ago. Would you bring him in, Lou?
No. Personality problems. There's something behind the scenes. I love the Premier League. Like, after Serie A, like, that's what the league I paid the most attention to, and just all the talk around that United team, like, it's a disaster top to bottom. But Sancho, like, isn't necessarily innocent in there. I think that he has some attitude problems that maybe aren't the best. So I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. And I said the exact same thing as far as that. And Omer said he'd take the shot. He'd take the shot on Sancho. For me, I just don't think if there is in fact this theory, which is going around a lot about Sancho, and you could easily believe that. I just don't see us as the team that's strong enough right now to take that on and be able to have the faith that we'll just have a guy come in and fall in line.
I almost, like, if this is going to sound crazy, but because I think Sancho's a way more talented player, but if it was between the two, between Sancho and Berardi, I think I would honestly take Berardi, because I think that if you're looking, we need to get back to looking for personalities and, like, like mindset, right? And I think Sancho, as great of a player as he is, as great of a talent he could be, does not have that personality, that character we're looking for.
You're looking for the asshole, right, Lou? You say we don't have that guy.
Well, we don't have that guy. Berardi is kind of a menace, which would be nice, but we could use a couple more assholes, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of just overall mentality, we'll bring someone, and I think that's for sure. The Pogba money, he's going to get terminated. Like, I think that will free up something. I just don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I'm not really sold on Højbjerg either, but if it's a loan, I could kind of convince
that one I don't like.
He's getting injury problems, which is a big issue for me.
Real last thing as we go into international break now. Okay, so we are going to see Chiesa, Locatelli, Keane got the call, and Gatti getting the call for the Azzurri. Awesome stuff. I actually
not his first call, by the way, everybody.
I actually think that Chiesa, it's going to depend on if he still has discomfort or whatnot. Like, maybe doesn't actually partake. So we'll see. Juve is my number one priority right now.
I always find it odd. I know we're trying to end the show, but I always find it odd that a player has to report for national duty, get evaluated for an injury, and get sent home. How the club does not have the right just to say you're not going is beyond.
Or do they? Well, it is the individual's call, right? So it's the player's call.
Is it the individual?
Okay. Yeah, so if they get the call, the team can't stop a player from accepting the national team call. Yeah,
it is weird that he's just going to go there, get evaluated, and then, like, maybe sent home.
Yeah, well, ultimately, it's going to be him. He can obviously avoid the call. He could say, I have discomfort. I don't want to take the chance. I'm not going, right? But apparently it was precautionary that he was left out yesterday, too, and it shouldn't be that bad. He was feeling still discomfort. But we got the international break. We've got Milan right after. Right as it sits right now, going into that Milan game, what's your confidence level on us getting the positive result and the 3 points. And
very high since they took it. Two of their better players took red cards yesterday. So
7.5 out of
Pretty
10.
high.
7.5 out of 10.
I'm at an 8.
Right? It's at the San Siro.
I believe that one is at the San Siro. Yes,
it's away. That's correct.
Yeah,
That's my hiccup because at the San Siro is always not against Inter, but against AC Milan is always tougher for us historically.
yeah.
At least like since I've been a fan. Not that
Opening lines, plus 132 for Milan, plus 220 for a draw, plus 200 for Juve. I'm right around there, around a 7 out of 10. But let's see what goes down. That would be a big one for Juventus, and hopefully kind of continuing to turn this tide and get things rolling. That's going to be a massive one after the break. Everybody, Lou, Ant, pleasure as always. All right. Thoughts with our brother Omer out there. Okay, stay safe, brother. Everybody in live chat, you guys are fantastic as always. Please drop a like on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel, okay? We'll probably do some fun stuff through the international break. Probably expect one live show, maybe a couple. We'll see. Might try and get some guests in here. And then we'll be back for the Milan match. But I'll definitely still be rocking the news updates leading up to that. And as always, whenever you're around and even when you're not around, I always give a big shout out to Lou for all the work he does on the news for the channel. Omer also contributing there a lot. Yeah, you guys do a ton. So big thanks there, Lou. And we're going to sign off now, guys. Anything left to say other than Fino alla fine, Forza Juve, let's go fuck shit up and take this title this year? Anything else? That's it.
That sums it up for me.
Gobo DNA. Guys, enjoy your weekends. Okay, take care. Talk to you real soon. Tomorrow, daily update video. Ciao tutti.
Yeah.